Okay, let's see how this goes then. Hi everybody. Welcome to. Let me just. There we go. Right, so as you can see, this has been very well planned out, as everything I do always is. So, start off with an introduction. I am Nick Cennamo-Smith. I am the author of Mortzeel's Lost and Found, the trilogy, the complete thing. Yep, just me. Hello. This is my first ever live stream, so I am very nervous. I feel very strange and slightly uncomfortable talking to a camera. But hey, here we go. Thank those of you that are here for joining in, and hopefully there should be some more people later on joining in. And if not, thank you for joining on the VOD. I hope this is helpful, give you some insight. So for some background, this is a Q&A that has come from the Kickstarter for the release of the trilogy. The first stretch goal was to do a live Q&A, and I thought it would be interesting to have some, let's say, get some questions to, get some answers to, explain, just to get people more into the story of the world, to explain what it is. So I've got some questions here from my lovely supporters, thank you for that. And if anyone wants to drop some questions in either the chat if you join, or in the comments later on, I'll be more than happy to answer if what you ask hasn't been, if what you're interested to know rather hasn't been asked here. So start off with some refreshing glass of brown soda. Other sodas are available, and I'm going to try to not have a panic attack live on the internet, because that would be embarrassing. Right, so let's kick off with what is Mortzeel's Lost and Found. This is a crime fantasy book series set based following the adventures rather of a detective and a young arcanist, wizard, who run a detective agency in the middle of a fantasy city, dealing with the less trivial problems that you would send rather like a grand hero or a group of adventurers to deal with. This is it's fun, it's witty, it's whimsical. The idea is that it's fun. It was fun to write. From what I've heard from others, it's been fun to read. So yeah, let's kick off with how we're going. So a little bit of background on me. I am other than being a writer, an author of this series, I write a monthly serial on Patreon, link is below if you're interested. Pardon me. And I do some little short stories here and there, but mostly if I'm not writing, I work as a CAD designer for an engineering company. So that takes up the majority of my time, and in between that I find time to write novels, which is fun and gets me through the day. So I'm really struggling to make contact with the camera. It's so weird. So we've got a few questions here. I'm going to be streaming for about an hour, so feel free to hop in and out, whatever you like. So I'm going to go through here, seeing as how there's, yeah. So we'll get into it and see how it goes. If all else fails and I get through the questions too quick, we'll see what happens. So where to begin? So let's say I've got all my questions here. Let's see what order I want to go through them in. So Right, so I'll do a bit of background on the characters first. The story follows two main characters, Kaivel Mortzeel of the title, and Talavera Leewood, a young arcanist. Now, Kaivel Mortzeel is a non-binary tiefling detective, so they're devilish. It's their detective agency. They run it with up until the first book. They've been running it entirely on their own, and this is okay. Keeping this as spoiler-free as possible. Their entire being is they enjoy helping people. They enjoy being a detective, and that's what they do. Talavera, on the other hand, is a young arcanist who has moved to the city where everything takes place, which is the city of Belgar, to basically look for work. She wants to become an enchanter. She wants to find her place in the world, and through a series of misfortunes, she ends up needing the assistance of a detective, and she falls in with Kai. The two of them then join forces, as it were, trying to help her with her problems, which then spirals into a series of unfortunate events that just keep spiraling and spiraling. And it's a fun story. It's more about characters and having fun and getting into it than it is about the nitty gritty. I enjoy fantasy. I enjoy crime. I dislike the main tropes around both those genres, which is I don't like the, as fun as it is, I don't really like the one true hero genre, where so this is the chosen one, they are the one prophesized to save the world. I think that's been done to death, though I understand it's a good story beat to follow. And I also don't enjoy the crime the more detective-y aspect of crime series, where it's usually a grizzled old detective, ex-cop, ex-military, addiction issues or personality issues that force them into being a loner dealing with crimes. It's all very gritty and dark, and that's not what I wanted this to be. I wanted this to be light and fun and easy for everybody to enjoy. So it's a world where things like magic exists. So there are, as well as there being human characters, there are elves and tieflings and dwarves and orcs and gnomes and halflings and all that kind of mismatch in between. There are mythical creatures that still exist in the wild. There are dragons somewhere. They don't really get that much involved, but there's a lot of just cramming fantasy. And if fantasy had carried on and just evolved, not just stopped with Tolkien-esque and then gone straight into modern day, it's kind of that progression of what if this thing just kind of carried on evolving. Yeah, it's a series I very much enjoyed writing, and I'm going to continue to write. So with all of that said, and hopefully not rush through too quickly. Sorry, I'm very nervous. I don't usually enjoy public speaking, but I foolishly decided this would be a fun thing to do. More for me. Anyway, so let's kind of jump into the questions that I've got. I've got quite a few here to get through, so let's see how it goes. I'm not going to name anybody who gave these questions just in case they don't want to be named. And I wrote them all out and also forgot to put who asked the question under each one, so apologies for that. But a big thank you to all of the supporters of my Kickstarter who wrote these questions, and people on Instagram that popped them on as well. They were very helpful. If you're interested, the Instagram link is down below. It'll be, if you want to give me a follow or a like on anything, that would be really, really great. It'd be very supportive, and I'd appreciate it. So let's start off with the first one. So we're going with it says, what other media are you inspired by? And like, as I said, I'm a nerd, so I'm a big fan of fantasy series. I'm a big fan of crime. I absolutely love sci-fi, notably things like I absolutely love Firefly. It's fantastic. Castle, NCIS, Killjoys. There's far too many anime that I love that I could list. So these are all things that I actually thoroughly enjoy fantasy-wise. You've got Grimgar Fantasy and Illusion, fantastic fantasy series. You've got Bungo Stray Dogs, which is a fantastic kind of supernatural detective agency kind of thing, which again is a fantastic series if you can find anywhere to watch it. So these are the sort of things. I don't know how much I would say they inspire me, but they are things that I enjoy, and it's always good to kind of like pull different things from different genres and mix it up and see what works for you. Everything nowadays is just a cacophony of other media all crammed together and made into something new and exciting. So that's question 1. So I think since I am rushing through these, I'm going to go with my backup plan to make this a little bit more interesting to watch. A little something, because I felt like I need something to do if I would be too nervous for this, so we're going to go with it. And what I did have was I kind of treated myself to a little thing, and I'm just going to build this. Where's the camera? There we go. I'm going to build something here to stop me from being so nervous on camera and distract me a little bit while I answer questions. So we're going to go with. There we go. So, whilst I unpack these, let's have a look at this. This is probably not going to be very pleasant to listen to on camera. That's fun. I've got some scissors around here somewhere. This is all very, very poorly planned, and I apologise, but I'm a very chaotic person when it comes to planning, but it seems to work out for me in the long run. we'll see what happens. Anyway, ooh, lovely, lovely little pieces, all ready to get lost when I drop them on the floor, and I hope the cat doesn't eat them. So let's go with another question here. We've got, how does magic work in your world? This is always interesting because there's every kind of book series has their own way of dealing with magic and making it work. So magic in my world, or the world of Alda, which is where the story is set, there are many variations of magic and different things that it does. So you've got there are three types basically of magic. There is the bestowed magic, innate magic, and arcane magic. Bestowed, as it says on the tin, is magic given more often by gods or demons, fallen gods, as I will get into later on, as well as greater beings, so fae, devils, demons, any creature that has powers beyond that of the mortal realm has the ability to then bestow it onto certain followers obviously for favours or things in return. Then there is innate magic. Those are creatures that have had magic passed down through them through a bloodline of some description. Be that elven tieflings have their innate magics that come just from having slightly twisted blood, or slightly demonic blood, however you want to look at it. Infernal is the term, I believe. So those are the things. And then there's the arcane magic, which is magic that is learnt. So anybody can learn magic. It just requires a strong will and the ability to focus and control those powers. And that's the one. That arcane magic is what Talavera controls. She's a wizard. She has learned her spells. She is still learning. She will still consider herself a student probably forever, because there's never things you can't learn. Then there is, so yeah, that's magic. They say magic is a fun little thing that you can always make a book more interesting with, and especially in fantasy stuff, it's almost sort of required. Okie dokie. What have we got here? Is this the first book you've ever written? Despite ignoring the fact that it's a trilogy, this is not the first book, or the one-armed wizard rather, which is the first in this series, is not the first book I've ever written. It's the first one I've ever had published. And when I say had published, I am a self-published author, because I wanted this to be out. I didn't want to have to deal with anything like big publishing agencies, and also it's very hard to get a big publishing agency when you're a newcomer to the industry, when you're a indie author, which is just days and days of disappointment and then not really getting anything out of it. So yeah, I've written 2 books, rather, I'd say, before the One-Armed Wizard. Nothing to do with this series or even vaguely related. I wrote in college. I wrote a fancy-esque. It was a kind of more fancy historical. Where's I've written this? Pardon me. It's kind of a gladiatorial. Yeah. A kind of gladiatorial fantasy. It was about 36 chapters. It was very long and very convoluted. I didn't really understand at the time how to write or how to focus or how to really do anything, and it just went on and on and on. And it was, while it was fun to write, I don't think it would have been very fun to read. Which again, I was, say, 16, 17-ish, so I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and to some extent I still have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I've at least learned how to finish a story, or make a story into a series instead, if you don't want to stop writing. So yeah, that was that. Then in university again, I started writing, just to pass the time and get things going. It was again, about 20 or 30 chapters long, and I had the same issue of I didn't know how to finish. I hadn't really prepared a proper story outline, but this one was more of a fantasy supernatural style book set in London, but with the whole thing of there's an underworld of magic and mystery in amongst the modern world, which again was fun. Only one other person has read that, my roommate, and I promised her at some point I would finish it and never did, and that was about 15 years ago. So maybe at some point I will finish, I'll rewrite that, make it a bit more make it good, and who knows. Yes, but that again, that was quite a fun thing to write, but again I had the same issue of didn't know where the story was going. I got quite close to the end but didn't know how to wrap up in a satisfying way, and the whole thing just kind of fell off. But it was good, and I enjoyed it, and again that's something that is sitting on a hard drive somewhere, and who knows, one day it may see the light of day, but not today. Today is not that. Today is not this day. So yeah, that was for the books. Okay. Will the books include romance, or are they more about platonic relationships? That is a very interesting question. There's a lot of books nowadays that are very focused on, I believe the kids call it spice, which is a common theme. There's the fantasy romance books are prevalent pretty much everywhere as far as I've seen, which again, if that's the sort of thing you enjoy, go for it. It doesn't matter what you read as long as you enjoy it. There are relationships in this series, though that is not the main story, shall we say. I'm not sure if I'd say it's about platonic relationships. The two main characters have fun together, they are friends, and there is romance in the stories, but it's never going to be a story beat. The books are never going to be switched from the detective and magic aspect to focus on relationships. Their relationships will not be passed over, as it's an important part of character development and learning about who your character is and how they evolve. But it's not going to be a plot point, I don't think, at any point. At least not romantic relationships. There is something coming up that is much more involved with other kinds of relationships, but I'm not going to talk about that yet because I've not finished writing it. But yes, the relationship between Kai and Tal is one of friendship, and yes, it's more about friendship with them. They have a good time, they're learning about each other, they don't really know each other that well, especially at the beginning. Actually, nobody really knows Kai that well at all, and that's the way they like it. But you'll come to learn a bit more about them. There's the story delves a bit deeper, and we learn more about our little tiefling friends. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of. Personally, I'm not a big fan of romance novels or these kind of spicy books where I feel it's being done quite a lot in modern media as well, in TV series, where the story will stop for a good few episodes just to focus on the romance between the two characters and not actually evolve the story, and that's something that I don't particularly enjoy. It seems more like filler to me. But again, if that's the sort of thing you're into, great, enjoy it. The important thing is you enjoy what you enjoy and not be pushed into enjoying things because you think you should be, which is fine. I'm rambling a lot. I'm going to follow on this one with a similar question, which raises a good point. Are LGBTQ people accepted as normal, as a normal part of society, or is being non-binary considered unusual and cause problems? This is quite an easy one. LGBTQ+ is generally considered an entirely normal part of society. There are non-binary people, gay people, lesbian, bisexual, asexual, and it's just a part of a person's character. There's no way that it shouldn't be considered normal, there's no reason it should be considered weird and unusual, and there are no problems caused by it in the general society of Alder at large, and particularly in Belgar. It's a very diverse kind of place, and Kai is also not the only non-binary character in the series. There are a few more. There are openly gay and lesbian characters are openly bisexual. It's not the sort of thing that's going to be hidden behind, or kind of come out in a little side thing saying, oh, by the way, this character is this or this character is that. So no, this is you introduced to them, and it's very plainly, this is who they are. There's nothing to hide, there's nothing to feel weird about. This is just, yeah, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with it, and why should there be? Everybody is their own person, and what people do with their own lives is entirely them. So why have a problem with it? It just seems like causing strife for absolutely no reason. So yeah, that's a nice easy one to deal with. Let's see what else have we got. I'm going to do a little more collecting of points. For anybody who hasn't done one of these things before, it's a little nano block. I find them quite fun. I find them very relaxing, which is why I chose to do this when I am feeling very, still, whilst I am live, feeling very anxious about this entire concept. It's not something I've done before. It's not something, I don't know if I will do it again. Depends how this goes, or if I just enjoy building little nano blocks on the internet whilst talking to people, I might do that. We'll see. Let's get all my pieces out. Oh, this is also a thing. Oh, there's another pack. Let's follow on and continue with the theme, focusing most on Kai this time. Yes, but why did you decide to make your main character non-binary? This is oddly a question I get quite a lot, because I do not identify that way. I would believe the term is I am a cis white male. My pronouns are he him. That's just. But again, I don't see any problem with. I don't understand. It baffles me, the concept of why you would be offended by the way somebody chooses to be. So I chose to make Kai non-binary because personally I feel like there's a lot more LGBTQ plus now out there in modern media, and fantastic, branching out from the focus of media, which is that no, this is the way things have to be. So no, people exist in many functions, many different ways. There are many different aspects of life and different ways of life that we can focus on. The thing I find odd about modern media, especially some of the larger companies that could be doing more, shall we say? I don't know if more is the right word. But there seems to be instead of, I've always said that if these companies actually cared or actually wanted to put in the effort, they would make something new, they wouldn't reskin. And I feel that's what a lot of companies do, especially a lot of modern media companies. They, instead of creating something new to include people in it, they go, oh, we are going to backtrack and say this character is now this or this character is now that. So there's very little effort going into it, and it just, to me, it makes it seem like these big companies are just giving themselves a pat on the back for being inclusive when they could be doing more and making new stories instead of just rehashing old ones. So I had the chance to make a new story, and I chose to follow my own beliefs and make my main character non-binary, because again, it's just part of their personality, it's just part of who they are. It shouldn't have any effect on the way that they are or the way anyone sees them. So again, that's just, we all have our own personal beliefs, and somebody will disagree with me and somebody won't, and if you disagree with me, you're probably not going to enjoy my book anyway. And if you do agree with me, you might still not enjoy my book, but that's not the point. The point is we should all be free to enjoy what we want as we want, as long as it doesn't affect or harm anybody else. That is where I stand on those sorts of things. Now away from the awkward. I always feel awkward about talking these things because, again, I don't feel like I have any leg to stand on, so to speak. I'm going to stick some more blocks on to add a little gap in this. I'm wondering if I should have put some music to go with this stream, but then again, I don't know how well that would go, or if that would just be a distraction for me as well. And I'm already trying to distract myself from my anxiety here. Oh, everything's falling apart. There we go, build and focus. Right, okay, I'm going to start removing some of these. 1 second. So I'm just going to start removing some questions because I'm getting confused with all the different setups. So let's clear away the ones I've read. You are done. This is the first video. Nope. Sorry here about just doing some admin, effectively. Right. Okie dokie. So next question here. We've got, what authors would you compare yourself to? Again, I don't know if you say authors or writing style, because those two are very different things. I don't know which authors I would compare myself to, because I don't feel like, again, I don't read enough in my own genre, as it were, to say that I am like this, I write like this person, or I am like this person. And I don't think that, in many ways, I think that would be arrogant for me to say so as well. It's more about how you people, how you guys feel, and how the readers in general feel about how I write. I've had a few comparisons from people that have read my books, and I've been compared to, so I made a note here because, again, I've not heard of. I've heard one of these authors because I've got her books and they're very good. But again, I don't know if I'd feel good enough to compare myself to her as a style of writing. So for, the style of my books has been compared to T. Kingfisher, who again I've not heard of. Christina Henry, who is very good, writes the psychological Alice in Wonderland books, and the other ones based on existing fictions, which are great. And Ben Aronovich, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Aronovich, yeah. So again, if those are any authors you like, then there's maybe a good chance that you'll enjoy mine. And if those are good, if the other ones are very good authors, then I thank you very much for comparing me with them. Because Christina Henry is obviously a very big author. Ben Aronovich, I looked him up. He's a very big name as well. These are apparently good authors to be compared to. So thank you very much for the people that wrote reviews and compared me to them. Very sweet, I'm feeling. Ooh. Okay, let's focus away from that again now. Feeling a bit awkward. Let's put some more pieces in here. I don't know if I'm going to finish this on the stream, or if I'm going to run out of questions first and then just say goodbye, or I might just finish this and see where the conversation goes. Who knows? It's all a bit of a free-for-all, as it is. This is also, strangely enough, how I write. It's all a bit of a free-for-all. I like to see what the characters do, as opposed to forcing them down a story beat. So there you go. Oh, there's a little free extra question answers. How do you write your stories? I don't. I let them write themselves. I am just pushing the characters around where they need to go. So yeah. When it comes to writing stories, I've got a plot outline and a way of. You've really seen a lot here, right? We've got to shuffle over. Yeah. See, this just shows how well planned. Let's hide this as well. Yeah, I have a little book somewhere. It's gone. Where are you? Oh, he's over there. Yeah, I've got a book of plot beats, and I write everything down in a way, but it's not a this, then this, then this, then this happened. It's not like a long series of things. I write down, okay, here's how something starts. Oh, what could happen here, or how would that affect? Okay, here's how things need to end, and then the middle bit between those points, because I've obviously gotten to know these characters very well. I've spent a long time with them, writing about them, working out how they think, because I would say a lot of them, both Kai and Tao, neither of them thinks very much like me. Kai especially has a very chaotic, fly by the seat of your pants kind of way of thinking and dealing with problems, whereas Tal is an incredibly rational, everything must fit into a box kind of person, and gets very easily flustered when things don't go her way or she doesn't understand something. So I like to see how those two things would compare, and how they deal with problems separately and together when they're left to their own devices. So yeah, that's pretty much how I write, and I like to see where the story takes me as well. On more than one occasion, I've written the plot point, or written a long chain of things. Okay, this, then this, then this. This is how we're going to go through here, and I've started writing it. And as I've been writing it, I'm sitting there kind of going, this doesn't kind of fit, and then I'll just keep working on how the character is thinking and feeling, and how they would react in various situations, and turns out I then have to replan out my entire story because they did something that I hadn't anticipated. Which again is a nice way of being surprised when you're working on something you've written. Okay. Next question. Let's clear you out. Done you as well, haven't I? Hey. How many books are you planning? That is a good question. So I have currently written 3 books, which is The One on Wizard, A Noble Pursuit, pardon me, and The Heart of Winter. Those are all finished and hopefully being printed, and should be with my lovely Kickstarter supporters very soon. Then I finished towards the beginning of the year the 4th book in the series, and whilst taking a break from writing, having a relaxing holiday, I wrote 5 chapters of the next book. So I'm currently writing book 5. There is definitely going to be another trilogy because I have the plot points done for book 6 ready, and that's going to be another huge. That's going to be a big turning point, I think. So there's definitely going to be 6 books, and after that I have the plot outlines for 2 more. So it's either going to be 2 more after this. So either going to be a total of 8, or seeing on how things go, I might include a 9th just as a final trilogy. So it's a final trilogy of effectively beginning, middle, and end of the story of Kai and Tao. But I'm not going to tell you how that ends, because why would I? That would mean you don't read it. So yeah, there's going to be there's going to be a few more books to come, but it's not going to be continuing on forever. There is a story beat and a story arc that is going through, and whereas I have said before that these books are effectively standalone, they each contain a single mystery, like a main case for the 2 detectives to be dealing with. But there is also the long theme that runs through, the long arcing storyline which connects them all together. So any of them can be enjoyed on their own, but definitely best if you read them in order. Okay. Yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying writing Kai and Tal, and even when I finish the 9th book, I might just keep doing short stories. I add a little additional mysteries to keep myself entertained and to keep you guys entertained if you're still enjoying it, because why would I stop writing if I'm enjoying it, and why would I stop writing if you're enjoying it? Strangely, when I started out with this series, it wasn't even when I started writing the first book. It was in the middle of the pandemic, so I couldn't really go anywhere. I just had my amazing, beautiful little daughter, and she was spending an awful lot of time asleep on me. So, not able to leave the house, not able to move because there was a tiny human being using me as a bed. I found myself with the time to actually write the book, and it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't, at the time, and still now, I don't care if I sell 1 copy or 100 copies. Obviously 100 copies would be much better, financially speaking, but that wasn't the point. I wasn't writing a book to go, here's this great work for everybody buy it immediately. I wasn't expecting that, because that would be ridiculous, and I wasn't looking for that. I just wanted to write a book and say, look, okay, here's my story, here's a book I've written. It wasn't planned to be a series necessarily. I left the possibility open for it to be a series, because whilst I was writing it, I started coming up with more. So in the middle of writing the first book, as I was kind of going along and seeing how the story was, it was like, I could wrap this all up now, make it nice and neat, but it would be more interesting if this kind of thing carried on and it kind of went a bit further and I could explore a bit more and we could get to know these characters a bit more without it becoming huge, because this could have easily been like a incredibly thick kind of tome of a book, if I wanted to wrap everything up and give you everything about the characters in this world all in one go. But I decided now I'm going to stick with a nice little, I say a small novel, yeah, just shy of 100,000 words in the first one. Focus on that, and then like I'm going to publish it. I'm going to self-publish. I'll figure out how to do all that. I drew the maps. I designed the cover art. I got everything ready. I was like, right, I don't care if one person buys this or 1,000 people buy it. I am putting it out there in the world and say, look, here's something I've done. I've done it. Here's a book. Go. It's there. That is it. And just leave it to the world. And strangely, people were buying it and people were enjoying it, and I was getting reviews. Like, okay, right. So this is maybe not necessarily something I can right now make a career out of, or not something that is 100% financially beneficial, because it's really not. But it's something that I'm enjoying and other people are enjoying. So let's go. Let's do this. Let's write. And I am thoroughly enjoying it. It is in no way supplementing anything. I'll get onto that a little bit later, maybe. But yeah, so I'm enjoying writing for the sake of writing, and the fact that there are other people out there, you guys especially, who have donated and pledged to be part of this project and get more books out there in the world. It's incredibly, I don't know the word, I'm incredibly grateful for everything, so thank you all very much for that. Yeah. I'm going to stick some more, look, that's a cat hair. Let's carry on kind of going up here. I'm not sure if I'm actually staying on camera very well, but hey ho, this is my office, by the way, so I work from home, which is always nice. At least it makes my commute very easy. Which way do you go? You go like that. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, I spend an awful lot of time either in this office or in a nearby coffee shop, where I drink far too many hot chocolates. I'm not a coffee drinker, I don't do caffeine, I don't sleep already, so the last thing I need to do is introduce caffeine into my life. For anyone pointing at the brown soda I keep drinking, it is caffeine free, because it needs to be. Let's put some pieces in, and then move on to another question. I'm doing a layer at a time, as it were, to try and fumble. These things are so tiny. They're so enjoyable and so relaxing. I enjoy building things. I used to do Warhammer, and I still have some Warhammer behind me, but I never had time to paint, and I'm not very good at painting, so it was always I enjoy the building side, not so much the painting, not very good at it. So if anyone wants to paint some Scutari for me, that'd be great. Okay, let's move on to another question here, which is a more interesting one. Oh wow, it's actually, time is going by. Here's a question that this is going to require a bit of more explanation. The question says, why exactly is Art Deco the design of the gods? Now, part of the Kickstarter, one of the stretch goals was to do a Pantheon tarot set. So some tarot cards featuring the various gods of Alder. And the design of the cards is very Art Deco. It's all that kind of nice geometric bold colours, very 1920s Great Gatsby kind of style. And the reason behind this is, when you read stories or watch films that's kind of absolutely reek of that opulence and wealth, and of not having any consideration for consequences or anything like that, it's Gatsby. That's the whole idea of nothing is ever going to be wrong. Everything is perfect. Let's just have a good time and have fun. So Art Deco fits very well with that. It just looks it just looks wealthy and opulent, and to me that definitely speaks of the time that my gods are set in. So made some notes here. So for the Era of the Gods, I've been focusing a lot more on this as I've been writing the guide for the tarot set, because each god has not only a card but a little kind of brief history of where they fit into, and the explanation of the beginning of the world, which is also included in the prologue of the first book. But say for the Era of the Gods, it's a time when the gods quite literally walked the world. They were beings that one could interact with, and they controlled everything. So these great immortal beings, and everything of course around them would be perfect because they're gods. They want everything to be perfect, or focus on everything around them, the people that give to them, and the power they get from prayer and devotion. So it was a time where, let's say, the bestowed magic of the world was at its height. It is an area where if you are a follower of the gods, you had power. By being near the gods, you had power. So that's kind of like the wealth of it, the opulence, his everything you could ever want encapsulated. And I think Art Deco's that's kind of style. It's at the same time very, I would say it's very kind of old world fantasy, but also super futuristic if you kind of take it as it is. Because if you look at futuristic stuff, it's all very geometric and flat. It loses a lot of the nice curves and more artistic sides of it, and just sticks to prime solid shapes and geometry, which again I think suits well the Era of the Gods. Without going too much into spoilers or giving too much away, because as I've been combining all of my notes and the lore and putting all this together, for some of it for the tarot set and just some of it to connect my own lore together, I've actually started the planning points and the writing for a far-off prequel to the Mortzeel Lost and Found series, at the minute just called Cataclysm, and it is set at the moment where the gods went to war with each other, and kind of explaining a bit of the backstory that is kind of one of those moments lost to time. So again, not sure when that's going to be coming out because I'm very focused on what's lost and found at the moment. But if I'm ever able to write full time without having to actually go to my paying job, these books will come out a lot quicker, because if I could sit down every day and write, I would do it every day as long as I could. 8 to 10 hours I would just continue to, I would write non-stop. You couldn't pull me away. So yeah, that is why the Art Deco suits the Era of the Gods. Oh, why am I buzzing? I apologise. This could be a emergency thing, so we'll see what happens. There we go. So yeah, that's a little bit of what's going on there. Then, so we've got so much thing. I've almost finished. I've got 2 questions left. I can clear that one away because I spoke about that. Right. So, did you always want to be a writer? And this is a hard no. I never ever thought about being a writer. I was never any good at any of this sort of thing. Questionably, I'm still no good at it, but other people seem to disagree and enjoy it. So yeah, when I was at school, English was by far and away one of my worst subjects. Quite frankly, I didn't care. I didn't find it interesting in any way, shape or form. It just bored me to no end, learning about various poets and poetry and why the colour of certain curtains is. It all seemed, especially to me, even now, that teachers think more about certain aspects of a writer's work than that writer themselves did. There's the meme that you see all the time on social media of the author described the curtains as blue. This shows that they are feeling a deep-seated depression and yada yada yada, all that stuff. And then it says what the writer meant: the curtains were blue. So it could be as simple as that. And I think there was far too much of that kind of what is the meaning behind all of this when it came to writing, which I just didn't enjoy. And yeah, English, I failed miserably at school. I ended up having to go to night classes just to get into college, to go and do the thing I actually wanted to do, because again at the time you don't think when you're a child how important any of these skills are going to be for what comes next, especially if you're following any kind of academia. I wasn't. I was going for art was more my thing. I went to college for I did an art program, then I moved on to animation, then at university I studied 3D digital media and design, which basically means I have trained and I've worked as a 3D artist, 3D designer and animator. I've worked in different industries doing different things. I've worked on some small projects as a character artist and character designer, rigger and modeler. I've worked in advertising, I've worked in visualization, and now I work at as a CAD designer. So yeah, writing was never something that I ever thought about, although it was something that I kind of, even though I was at college and doing these writing things, I enjoyed it, but I didn't think about it in that way. I enjoyed the reason I like animation is I enjoy the storytelling, and I think when I came down to start really thinking about it later on in life, so just a few years ago really, it was the writing and the story is what I enjoyed. So that is how I've kind of come to this, and I enjoy it immensely, and I wish I'd figured that out sooner. But hey ho, life takes us down different paths, and we live and we learn. Fingers crossed. Okay, last question here. So, what inspires you to write? Again, like I said, I'm a big fan of crime fantasy series, TV, movies, anime, books. I wish I could read more. I don't have a lot of time to read because I spend a lot of time reading my own work for editing purposes and to check story beats. And so between writing, editing and actual work, I get very little time to read, and even when I do get time to read, I start writing other things. It might be an addiction, who knows, it might be a problem I have, but there are worse problems to have, let's be honest. So I thoroughly enjoy it. And okay, but yeah, sorry. What inspires you to write? Again, I'm not sure if I would say what inspires me is where I get kind of ideas from, because I enjoy a lot of video games. I play D&D, that sort of thing, those kind of themes, and I've been running a game for some very close friends for 7 or 8 years now, I think it is. So kind of seeing how other people react to situations that you haven't thought through or wouldn't have thought of, just seeing the way everybody interacts in that idea of creating worlds, and especially during the pandemic when I couldn't play D&D because we hadn't worked out how to do online games or how we could ever come together again. I took what I had learned and taught myself through those years of playing D&D to build a world, and then I had a world and I wanted to put some people into it and put some stories into it, and that's where Mortzeel's Lost and Found came from. So yeah, that's pretty much what inspires me to write. Any given moment I'll just sit down to have an idea, have that moment of freedom to not think about what you are and think about what this world is. This is like writing is a great form of escapism from whatever is bothering you, and even if you never plan on publishing anything or doing anything with it, I would encourage just picking up a pen and seeing what happens. You could write, you could draw, you could scribble, do whatever you want, just enjoy it. So that's where I stand on that. There we go. So yeah, we got 9 minutes. I said I would do an hour. We've done well. Thank you for sitting here and watching this, those of you that have come along. It's very much appreciated. I'm definitely not going to finish this Venusaur, but that's okay. Maybe I'll finish it off stream or post a little photo of it. So if anybody here is on Instagram and would like to follow along, I do a lot of updates there. I do a lot of extra little bits and pieces behind the scenesy stuff, or just like a lot of things related to it that are not just focused on Mortzeel's Lost and Found in the Kickstarter. Even some additional Kickstarter stuff goes up there that's not exclusive. There is also, I also have a monthly series on Patreon, or Patreon, however you want to pronounce it. I think it probably should be Patreon. I'm just panicking again. Yeah, I am doing a monthly series on there called The Rat King of London, which is a Victorian-esque fantasy under the symmetry of Secrets of Nim, which is another fantastic series. Oh, another fantastic book and film. So if you have not seen it or read it, go find it, have a go. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I've got a weird thing with rats. I love them. No, never had a pet rat, and I don't think that's ever going to change. But yeah, it's good. There's a last thing that I want to address. It was a thing that was brought up in some of the feedback from the Kickstarter, and I wanted to address it here and kind of give some kind of understanding on it. When I did the first Kickstarter, the one that failed dramatically, I think I made about £400 on it, and my target was 4,000, so a bit short, I'm sure you'll agree. And the reason I went for that is I was trying to use Kickstarter to cover the costs of publishing. So for the printing, editing, audiobooks, and even then getting everything all included, the total cost from my side of things has been closer to 5,000. So even my goal of 4,000 wasn't going to cover everything, but I somehow felt I thought it was more reasonable. Clearly, I was wrong. So the second Kickstarter, I saw that there were people that had followed along and stuck onto the end. And to those of you who were part of the first Kickstarter and then have joined the second one, thank you very much. It was greatly appreciated. Your support means so much. And thank you. So yeah, for this second Kickstarter, I went, right, I know what I can make, so I set my target very low, just so I could get at least these people who had stuck along for the first Kickstarter, so I could get books out to them. That was my goal. This time we've done significantly better, achieving over 400%. But again, all of the cost to all of this, it just goes to getting the books out there and printed. So if you're looking to go into writing as a career path without anything else, wouldn't recommend it. I have spent far more on this project than I have made from it, but I don't care. The point is that I'm doing it and that other people are out there enjoying it, and that's what it's for. So yeah. Having said that, again, with how badly the first Kickstarter went, I never thought ahead to what if this one does make it beyond the 100%. So the stretch goals were thought up in the heat of the moment as things were going. Hence the live Q&A with somebody who doesn't enjoy public speaking and who gets very nervous with public speaking. And then so as I was coming up with things, as suggestions were coming in from you guys, and what I did was I didn't think about making any profit off them. I wanted to do them at cost. So the cost of printing the bookmarks, what you have paid for is the cost of me getting them printed. The tarot cards I know were the most expensive thing. They were more expensive than the product itself. But as I was looking around, how to get this set printed, because I wanted it to look good and be good. I didn't want just to give like a crappy homemade deck of cards. I didn't think that would be worth it to you, and it would be insulting. And I wanted to get everything done right. And with these companies that do all the printing, unless you are ordering them in their thousands, they are incredibly expensive to print and to produce. So even if you're printing like even just a single deck for one print, that the cheapest I found for that was about £50 for printing a single deck, and then as you obviously got more, the cost went down per deck, but it was still ludicrously expensive unless you were printing 1,000 copies, in which case it got down to something like £5 a pack. So yeah, I've tried to do everything at cost to fit you guys. But with what I've learned from this Kickstarter and where it's going to go forward, next time I'll be more prepared, for sure, if I do this again, which I think I might, because this has gone quite nicely. I will be more prepared. I will have more add-ons readily available at a better cost. I will have more variety and options, and just make sure that everything is something you will want, and something that would be beneficial to either connect to the series or connect to the world at large of Alder. Yeah, just wanted to address that to explain the costing of various things. It was, yeah, nothing more I can do with that. I am an indie author working entirely on my own for this. I designed the cover art myself. I've written the book. I've had an editor who has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for that. I have now got my voiceover guy, who again is incredible. The way he reads, the character he has in his own voice as he's reading, it's strangely weird hearing the personality I felt writing the books be read back to me from somebody who isn't me, which is good, because I don't like the sound of my own voice, and this guy's fantastic, especially the character voices he does. It's really great. So all of this going forward, it's apart from the two lovely people who have been doing the editing and the audiobook, this has been an entirely one-man operation. Drawing all the maps, designing everything. It's been a chore. It's been like a second job, but it's been a job I've enjoyed thoroughly. And to know that there are others of you out there enjoying it as well, I just want to say I appreciate it. Again, I'm repeating myself, and I know I am, but I'm incredibly grateful. So thank you very much. Thank you for coming along to this Q&A. For those of you who join on VOD, hi, thank you for being here. I hope this was informative, and again, if you have any more questions, or you feel like I missed something or need to explain something further, feel free to drop me a comment or send me a message on Instagram, or if you want some more goodies and more stories and want to keep showing support, there is my Patreon account, that's patreon.com/Nick Cennamo-Smith. Instagram is nick.cennamo-smith. Name is below, links are below to everything. So thank you very much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and take care. Bye.